circumstances. Imagine being at home, peacefully sleeping in your bed, when all of a sudden, an intruder breaks in. You immediately jump out of bed and defend your life and family from this home invasion. But when the police show up, they end up arresting and charging you for assaulting the intruder. Sound far-fetched? Well, that's exactly what just happened to a man in Lindsay, Ontario. Jeremy McDonald was asleep at his home at 3 a.m. when all of a sudden an intruder broke into his apartment. An altercation ensued, and the intruder suffered life-threatening injuries, and he was later airlifted to a Toronto hospital. When the cops showed up, they charged the homeowner with multiple charges for defending himself while inside his own home. According to police, this home invader was already well known to them, and he was a wanted man for other serious offenses. But in Canada, if you dare to try and defend yourself against someone like that from invading your private home, you are the problem and the one who will be charged. Police Chief Kirk Robertson issued a statement saying, while people do have a right to defend themselves and their property if they believe they are facing a threat, under Canadian law, those rights are not unlimited in Canada, Robertson said. He then went on to say, and I quote, "The law requires that any defensive action be proportionate to the threat faced." He then elaborated on that, saying, "This means that while homeowners do have the right to protect themselves and their property, the use of force must be reasonable given the circumstances." Reasonable? If you were woken up by a home invader at 3 a.m., do you think you would in that moment be able to decide what is a reasonable response? What an absurd so-called right. Pierre Poilievre chimed in on this, saying, "Your home, your family, your life. If someone breaks in, you deserve the right to defend your loved ones and your property, full stop." And Premier Doug Ford weighed in on the case, saying, "I know if someone breaks into my house or someone else's, you're going to fight for your life," Ford told reporters on Wednesday. "This guy has a weapon. You're going to use any force you can to protect your family." Well, apparently Poilievre and Ford are fully unaware that Justin Trudeau once admitted that if you want to use a gun, for example, to protect your life and your family while in your own home, you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada.
We have a culture where the difference is guns can be used for hunting or for sport shooting in Canada, and there's lots of gun owners, and they're mostly law-respecting and law-abiding. But you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada. That's not a right that you have in the Constitution or anywhere else. If you try and buy a gun and say it's for self-protection, no, you don't get that. You get it for hunting. You can get it for sport shooting. You can take it to the range, no problem, as long as you go through our rigorous background checks. But there's a difference around the culture.
And as if that wasn't bad enough, guys, here's the part that everybody seems to be missing. Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre are way too late on joining in on this conversation. Because in case you didn't know, another man was once charged with attempted murder for defending himself against a home intruder in his own private home. Kyle Earl Munroe was arrested after the RCMP and the Halifax Regional Police responded to a report of a home invasion involving firearms. Munroe successfully seized one of the firearms from one of the suspects. Several shots were fired, which made the suspects flee, and this resulted in a criminal charge for the homeowner. I covered this one 8 years ago now, and I think it's important to reiterate this today to show you just how late to the conversation everyone is. Check this out. All right, I think it's safe to say that it is an undisputable fact that Canadians have absolutely zero rights when it comes to self-defense. If you don't believe me, just look at a recent case of a man from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Kyle Earl Munroe. On July 12th, 3 men entered a residence with guns drawn where a struggle ensued with 2 men who were inside the home. The 2 men were able to fend off the home invaders while managing to take away one of their guns. Shots were fired, causing the suspects to flee, and one of the suspects ended up getting hit, causing non-life-threatening injuries. So how did the police respond to this brave and courageous act of defending one's home from an invasion from intruders? Well, the RCMP and the Halifax Regional Police responded to the incident by arresting the man who fended off the home invaders, Kyle Munroe, and they charged him with, are you ready for this? attempted murder, intent to discharge a firearm, intent to discharge a firearm while being reckless, careless use of a firearm, improper storage of a firearm, pointing a firearm, possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, unauthorized possession of a firearm knowing possession is unauthorized, and possession for the purpose of trafficking. I mean, what the hell is going on here? For the simple act of defending himself, Kyle Munroe can now face serious jail time. And on top of that, until he has his say in court on August 22nd, he has to abide by the following rules. He cannot leave his house except for medical reasons or for work. He can no longer have a cell phone or pager. He can't consume drugs or alcohol. He's not allowed to leave Nova Scotia. He must keep the peace and be of good behavior. And he must answer the door when police check his home. How unbelievably twisted, backwards, upside down, whatever you want to call it, can our government possibly get? And the truth is, this isn't even an isolated incident. Ian Thompson, an Ontario man, went through a similar ordeal a few years ago. Thompson woke up to 4 men throwing Molotov cocktails at his home, and considering that he lived a long way away from the police, not to mention the fact that he was a former firearms instructor, he fired warning shots at his assailants, causing them to flee, and then he put out the fire that could have burned down his home, and then he called the police. Thompson was then charged, and he faced more jail time than his attackers. Or the case of Michael Woodward, a man who defended his New Brunswick home from an armed invasion, and he was charged for shooting one of his attackers. The bottom line is, guys, Canadians are incrementally losing their rights under Justin Trudeau, especially when it comes to gun laws. We warned Canadians about this years ago during a live broadcast where I interviewed in studio Rod Giltaca, the president of the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights. He's a well-known figure in the firearms community in Canada, not to mention he's a certified instructor for the RCMP Canadian Firearms Program. And we delved deep into everything that Trudeau had in store for Canadians in terms of our gun laws, and it's all now coming to fruition. So I strongly recommend that you check out this interview. I'll include a link to it at the end of this video. So as I said in the beginning of this video, the Canadian government clearly does not respect the right to self-defense in this country. You know that whole Second Amendment thing they have down there in the United States? Yeah, well, I think it's time Canadians get something very similar here in the Great White North. It's too bad our current leaders and politicians weren't listening back then, but hopefully they'll be listening now. Because when a man can be charged with assault for fighting off an intruder from a home invasion, and when a man can be charged with attempted murder for defending his life and his private property, you know that things are seriously broken in Canada. But the truth is, the system isn't broken, my friends. The system is fixed. And I think it's about damn time we change that before more of these cases occur. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments section of wherever you happen to be watching this video. Do you think that Canadians should have a right to self-defense in their own homes? I think the answer should be obvious, but we're talking about Canada here. The true north, not so strong and free. Thanks for watching, guys. If you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, please consider making a contribution at my Give, Send, Go campaign or by visiting pressfortruth.ca/donate. Links for both of those are located in the description below. And please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Click that thumbs up button and share this video. And stay tuned, guys. I'm gonna have more video reports coming soon, God willing. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.